Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening live to an edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta, along with Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, our producer Wayne in Memphis, and our guest today is Dave Cohen, the voice of the Georgia State Panthers. He's going to talk about Georgia State football and baseball. We have the the Georgia State spring game this weekend. It'll be on tomorrow. Let's see, the spring game is tomorrow, April 16th at 6:30. The admission is free. You have to RSVP online. Masks are required. A clear bag policy is in effect. Fans can kick off this Friday evening by enjoying the many restaurants in the Summerhill District adjacent to Center Park Stadium. Welcome, Dave, to ATL Prime Sports as always, my friend.
Well, it's good to be back with you guys. I have been absent the last few weeks, but, great to be back. The spring game is tonight at Center Park Credit Union Stadium at 6:30. I'm going to head down early because they've got a lot of former players that are going to be out playing a flag football game starting around 5:15, 5:30. So it'll be great to see and reconnect with a lot of our former players that are coming out. And then for the first time, they're going to actually play a blue-white game tonight. They held a draft yesterday with the two-team captains, one on the two on offense, two on defense. They basically held a little draft. And so instead of playing the spring game the way they have played it, like situationally, the last 2-3 years, are actually going to play a spring game, a blue-white game tonight down at the stadium. So looking forward to that. They got a lot of activities for families. They're actually going to be showing a movie at about 8:30 tonight on the big screen out in center field. For anybody that comes out and wants to stick around for that, you can either stay in the stands or head out and lay a blanket out, and you could lay right out in the middle of the football stadium and watch a movie if they so desire. So, a lot going on down there as spring practice comes to a close tonight with the annual spring game, but looking forward to it.
I think I mentioned tomorrow I kicked myself as soon as I did it. I'm glad you corrected me. It is tonight. I got my days mixed up. I thought today was tax day and yesterday was. I'm a mess. It must be that vaccine they put in me to prevent me from getting coronavirus. So, sorry about that. The spring game is tonight at 6:30. And what are the stories so far as you've watched spring practice and some of the players to look out for?
Well, I think first and foremost, and if you've had a chance to listen to any of the Panther Insider podcasts that I've been doing, and we've done now 63 of them, going back to last summer, but the 3 or 4 that we've done recently have been with the returning team captains. And, first of all, coming out of 2020, they felt extremely blessed, number one, that Georgia State was able to play a 10-game schedule, including a win over Western Kentucky in the Lending Tree Bowl. As you know, we talked about it a lot in the times that I've been on with you guys. It was a hodgepodge of who was playing, what conferences were playing, conferences were not, which ones started late. As I said, the Sun Belt never wavered from the get-go that they were going to, try as best they could to play a full schedule. And while not every school in the Sun Belt was able to play a full schedule, drilling down, Georgia State was able to play 10 because, they had 3 of their non-conference games that were canceled, including what would have been a game at Bryant-Denny Stadium back in September against the Alabama Crimson Tide. So first and foremost, everybody was just extremely happy to have had some semblance of a normal season, again, minus the 3 games. Figuring into that, the COVID season that the seniors were afforded, we've got 22 of 24 players that started making the decision to return this year. Basically, the entire offense and the entire defense from last year's team are coming back. And so this is going to be, without question, heading into the 12th season of Georgia State football, this will be the most experienced team that has taken the field wearing the Georgia State blue and white as you look at both sides of the ball. You know, a couple of the things to keep an eye on. You know, question number one, is there what kind of competition is there at the quarterback position? Cornelius Brown inherited the position last year. He won the position last year after 2 years of Dan Ellington. And his backup, Michele Colasurdo, was able to get limited snaps during the season this past year in 2020. But surprisingly enough, they got a transfer. If you remember last year, 2 years ago, I should say, in week 2 against the Furman Paladins. It was the week after coming back from Knoxville and the win over Tennessee. Furman came in with Darren Granger at quarterback, and they came out of the chute and they tore us up in that first quarter. I think Furman got up 21-7. Now, Georgia State ended up battling back and winning that game 40-something to 40-something. It was a shootout. Come to find out, during the offseason, Darren Granger made the decision to transfer out of Furman, and now he is at Georgia State. So, and he is a fairly experienced quarterback, even though he's got 3 years remaining. So you've got Cornelius Brown, you've got Michele Colasurdo, you've got Darren Granger. Is there a quarterback, I don't want to use the word controversy because it's not a controversy. Where is the battle at that position? I think right now the battle is for the backup spot. Is it going to be Colasurdo? Is it going to be Darren Granger? Again, the Furman transfer. Loaded at wide receiver and at tight end. I mean, just so much experience with guys like Cornelius McCoy, Terrence Dixon, Sam Pinckney, Roger Carter, and on Aubrey Payne at tight end. I mean, there's just not a position amongst the receivers where there's not significant experience. Same thing along the offensive line. All of these guys, this is the most experienced offensive line, starters and backups that we've had. And then, of course, I can run down names of running backs right now. My depth chart goes 6 deep, couple of 3 that I'm not even putting on there as of yet. So you look at the offensive side of the ball, it's just stacked with experience. And then as you flip the chart, it's the same thing on defense, led by Dante Wilson, Hardrick Willis, and Jeffrey Clark up front. Inside linebackers, one of the new names there is a North Carolina transfer, Kyle Wright. But, they did lose an experienced player in Trajan Stevens-McQueen out of that position. But a lot of experience back with Blake Carroll and Jordan Venzial and Zach Dixon. And then at corner and safety, same thing. I could run down the names, but they're just loaded with experience in all 3 phases on the defensive side of the football. And last but not least, special teams, your place kicker, Noel Ruiz was a transfer in last year from North Carolina A&T. Was fantastic. Your punter is Michael Hayes. I got to be honest with you. I'm not saying that this team, with our schedule this year, which includes Auburn and North Carolina on the road in the preseason non-conference, pre-conference portion of the schedule, I'm not saying Georgia State's going to go 12-0. I'm just saying that this is the most experienced football team that Georgia State and that Sean Elliott has had in the time he's been, in Atlanta.
Well, that is great news. Experience, hopefully, to lead to victories for Georgia State. Dave, I hope you enjoy the spring game. It is tomorrow once again. Today. I'm telling you, it's coronavirus vaccine in me. It is today at 6:30 p.m. It's at the Center Park Stadium. Admission is free. You have to RSVP online. Masks are required. A clear bag policy is in effect. And once again, fans can kick this off by tonight enjoying the many restaurants in the Summerhill District adjacent to Center Park Stadium. All right. Once again, the spring football game is tonight at 6:30 p.m. Go out and check out your Panthers. All right, let's switch over to baseball. Dave, when I look at baseball and I look at the first thing I think is, I don't think of the record. I think of the schedule. It has been brutal. 1 versus Clemson, 3 versus Kentucky, 3 versus Tennessee, 1 versus Florida, 4 against West Virginia, 2 against Georgia, 4 against Vanderbilt. Dave, I don't care what the record says at 8-26. most teams that play this great schedule that you're playing are going to have an under 500 record. Talk about the schedule, how difficult it's been for Georgia State, because they've only played 11 games at home, 23 on the road, and only 9 conference games. You guys might as well have been an SEC team this year.
Yeah, you're right about that, and they open a 3-game weekend series in the Sun Belt Conference with Troy in Atlanta tonight. So we got 2 things going on. We got the spring football game, and baseball opens a 3-game series with Troy out at Panthersville. But, yeah, you're right about that. And if Brad Stromdahl was on this call instead of me, I'm pretty sure that what he would say is, well, first and foremost, it's not common to schedule non-conference in the manner in which decided to schedule this year. But we're also not playing with the virus under normal college baseball circumstances per se. So the reason that the schedule that you just mentioned came off as it did was because, college baseball primarily plays, a 54 to 56 game schedule. And, he saw what Georgia State basketball went through with 9 games canceled. He saw Georgia State football, as I mentioned at the top of the show, losing 3 games to the virus. He did not want to enter in a 56-game schedule with the risk almost every weekend of having to cancel games. Because if you look around college athletics, testing protocol with regards to coronavirus is different at different conferences. And at the highest level, which in the South is the SEC and the ACC, the protocols are such that the chances were extremely high, and he's been right about this, that virtually no games would end up getting canceled because of the virus or positive tests. And so far, knock on wood, that has not happened. So he wanted to schedule in such a manner that they could get as many games in as possible with the lowest risk of the virus forcing the cancellation game. Now, at the same time, it's also a great opportunity to test what is a fairly young college baseball program. Brad's in his 2nd season at Georgia State after building a powerhouse at the NAIA level at Georgia Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville. But his first season was canceled after 16 games last year when the season was abruptly ended at the outset of the coronavirus pandemic. So, you're right. They have been everywhere in the Southeast, all those schools that you mentioned. They opened up against, 14th-ranked West Virginia here in Atlanta and split the 4-game series with them. As you mentioned, Vanderbilt, I was over in Athens on Tuesday night. They lost 10-6 now when they lost both games to Georgia this year. But he still feels that going forward, for every position player and every pitcher, to have the opportunity to go out and compete against some of the top college baseball programs in the country, that experience will be invaluable moving forward, not just the remainder of this season with regards to the Sun Belt Conference, but for all of these young players who are going to be in this program for the next 2 and 3 years. Again, looking forward, to the next 2 and 3 years. Again, the kind of experience that should really, hopefully, pay dividends for Georgia State baseball moving forward. But first and foremost, as I said, they put it together playing the schedule that he played, more than likely they'd be able to get the games in and play as opposed to playing other mid-majors that maybe don't have the same testing protocol, and then he would end up having to cancel games. And they did not, as a staff, as a coaching staff, they did not want to do that and take that risk.
Hey, Dave, Mark Mancini out here in Los Angeles, and when I look at the South as far as college baseball, I can't help but think, it's got to be 1A and 1B when you look at the West Coast and the South now across the board in college baseball. And I know the South has a leg up on college football, and then it's everybody else after that. Any thought to those? How far the South has risen with these sports in the last decade or so?
Mark, I think the best way that I could answer that, and Todd will, I'm sure, be able to back me up on this because he's an umpire who works travel ball locally here in the Atlanta area, and both of my kids have played in the travel ball system here in the Atlanta area. And that is, just in Atlanta alone, you've got the East Cobb Baseball Complex, which is nationally recognized. And then you also have the Lake Point Complex, just up I-75 in Emerson, Georgia, which is also nationally recognized and was a Perfect Game property. The Perfect Game has now moved to East Cobb. My point is that there is so much outstanding baseball in the Atlanta area, the state of Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. You can go through the parking lot at those two properties, East Cobb and Lake Point that I mentioned, on any given weekend, cars with license plates from all over the Southeast. I've been out there numerous times when there have been college coaches moving from field to field watching these travel ball games. Now, I know that they keep up with high school as well, but if you're a college baseball coach or an assistant in the Southeast, you can come into the Atlanta area and see outstanding baseball in those two complexes that I mentioned. That's not to say that coaches from outside the Southeast aren't making their presence known as well, but there's just so much good baseball in this area, so many good, outstanding players, that if you look on any roster in the SEC, the ACC, the Sun Belt Conference, Conference USA, the Southern Conference, the Ohio Valley, and I'm naming conferences all in this region, you're going to find those rosters dotted with players all over the place that are from the metro Atlanta area and or the state of Georgia. And again, it's just because there's just so much outstanding baseball almost on a year-round basis that the teams just come in and they benefit from, the programs that are based out of this area, and they're able to, have it's a very, very fertile recruiting ground for college baseball coaches. Again, more so in the Southeast, but those that come in from outside the Southeast as well.
I second that, Dave. There's no doubt about it. You're 100% correct in everything you said. And it starts really young here. I know it starts young everywhere else, but there is an advantage. You can almost play baseball here year-round in this area. And when I think about that, that's an advantage, and it's also a disadvantage because I see these kids, and they're putting a lot of wear and tear on their arm. They're being overused at a young age. That, to me, is a big-time negative in regards to that. But the positive is they get a lot of experience, and there's a lot of fantastic weather to do it in, and there's pretty good coaching out here, no question about it, especially when you get to the travel level. But my biggest concern, once again, is I think that they are overtaxing these kids, and I'm a big believer in a kid playing as many sports as possible and not this focus and specialization on one sport. Dave, thanks so much for coming on today. We're out of time. You want to come on early next week, we'll get with you on a time and a day, and you can talk about the Georgia spring game in detail with us. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me. Anytime you guys invite, I'll do my best to make myself available. Always enjoy it.
Oh, I enjoy it too. You're a fantastic guest as always. That's Dave Cohen, the voice of the Georgia State Panthers here on ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder with you until 1:30. Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, and our producer Wayne in Memphis. We're going to stick with baseball and real quick and talk about the Atlanta Braves. There's been a lot of negativity going on with the slow 5-8 start, but I don't want to do the negativity. I'm sick and tired of the negativity. It's a 162-game season. I believe when the dust is settled, Atlanta will win this division, but it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a 5-team race. The NL East is going to knock each other off. But let's focus on the play of Ronald Acuna Jr., the 23-year-old from Venezuela, in his third season. He broke in, he's in his third season. In April 2019, he signed an 8-year, $100 million deal that will become a 10-year, $124 million deal if the Braves exercise two options at the end of his contract. And, by today's standards in baseball, this is a colossal bargain for a superstar. It may be the best bargain for a superstar. Acuna in 52 at-bats, hitting .442, 7 homers, 14 RBIs. OPS is 1.492, has 3 stolen bases, 6 doubles, 1 triple. He was tied for third in RBIs. He's first in homers. He's third in average. Mark and Wayne, Mark, you're first. This is a great bargain. And, boy, this kid, he maybe he'll win the Triple Crown. And maybe he'll win that. And maybe he'll be the NL MVP. I know it's way, way, way too soon. But to watch this kid play on a nightly basis with the enthusiasm that he has is infectious.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, maybe I'm pulling from my buddy out there in Pittsburgh and Gregory Polanco. He needs to get off the schneid. But, there's going to be some competition for this National League MVP. If Yelich gets back to his ways, you can have Bryce Harper in the mix here, but Acuna's a special talent. And, when you look at this Brave team, I mean, they're struggling of late, and we don't want to hit the, negatives like you said. And so the positives of this, you go to a 2-city road trip here, you play the Chicago Cubs, and it's going to be cold. I mean, the temperature probably won't get above 50 this weekend out there. Who knows? And then you get a Yankee team that's reeling. So you can call it, instead of a road trip, I like to put it to perspective here. It's a reeling road trip. If you to play two teams in cities that just really haven't got themselves acclimated to the early start, as well as the Braves. Any thoughts to that?
Well, it's a long season, and Mark, I don't even really pay attention a whole lot to the standings at this point. I like to bring the season in 40-game increments, and we're not even halfway to the first 40-game increment. So we shall see. Wayne, you know what? When I think of Ronald Acuna, one of the players I think of is Ricky Henderson. You're a Texas Rangers guy in the American League. I don't know if you had a lot of chance to watch Ricky Henderson play. You're around my age. Does Ronald Acuna remind you of Ricky Henderson?
I'd have to go back and remember some of those games. But as far as the Atlanta Braves season, as far as Atlanta Braves season goes this year, I think the reason that people are so taken aback by it is because they expected more at this point than what they're getting as far as wins.
Sure. You know what? Sure, you're right. They expected a better start, but when you get your top pitchers on the IL, that's going to happen when you got players that are now performing like the back of their baseball card, like they will. This is the start you're going to get. You're going to see Freeman, who's hit for homers and RBIs. You'll see his average come up. You're going to see Ozzie Albies. You're going to see anybody else in that lineup, Ozuna and et cetera, hit with the back of the baseball card what it says, and when they do, they're going to be just fine. I mentioned Ricky Henderson to you because of the style of play. He can run, he can hit, he can throw, he's fast, he can steal bases. Ronald Acuna is a game changer, and when they put him at the leadoff spot, I kept thinking, no, three-hole. But you know what? I got to give the Braves a lot of credit here. Putting him at the top of the order was a brilliant move. I mean, it just was. I mean, there is no question in my mind that he is an awesome leadoff hitter. Let's go ahead. We got about 5.5 minutes left of the show. Let's flip over to the football and the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to ask you guys this question, and I want to know why the Atlanta Falcons win total for this season opened up at 7 per Caesars. Now remember, they play a 17-game season. I always think in 16, especially with this COVID shot. My mind's messed up since I got it on me. So with the Atlanta Falcons win total, is it going to be more, or is it going to be over under 7 per Caesars? And why, Mark? Do the Falcons win set? Do they get to 7? Is it over and under?
Well, I think it's going to be under. I really think they're in a transition here, unless Matt Ryan has a big year. They draft another slot receiver there, I think, or, tight end. It's going to be everybody in this division will be looking up at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. New Orleans has kind of lost a lot of people. They lost Drew Brees to retirement. So I think unless somebody can make a move in here, but I don't think Atlanta is going to get more than 7 wins. I'd have to say it's under.
Wow, under. Wow, Wayne, as I go to you, you are a huge Falcons guy. We had fun via text a while ago when I sent this question to you. Do they go over and under, and why? And to me, I'm thinking it's over because they're not going to blow games like they blew on a regular basis last year, where they had 5-6 games where they had a 90% chance of winning it, and they always found a way to lose it. And as you know, in the National Football League, every game is close. Most games are close. Almost all of them are close, and it usually comes down to a few plays here and there, and there really is not a big difference between the haves and have-nots. So therefore, I think they at least win better than 7 games, and if they draft well, they should accomplish this by my theory. And I hate using the word theory because everything changes every year. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's 2 sides to my thinking on the Atlanta Falcons. The first side is the pure fan side, which says they're going to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. But then there's the realistic side of me that says the draft picks this year are not going to make any difference, but I still think they could win as many as 10 games.
I think that's within reach. Speaking of draft picks, we got about 2.5 minutes left in the show, so this is going to have to be answered quickly by you guys. If the Falcons stay at 4, if they don't trade down, if they can't find a partner, because they are looking for a partner. I know they're doing their due diligence with all the quarterbacks and that in case it gets one of them they really like. Would they take one? I doubt it with Matt Ryan and his contract situation and his play. So they're doing that so they can bait and switch and try to get teams to trade up with them. But if they stay at 4, answer real quick, Mark, you first, then Wayne. If the Falcons stay at 4, do they take Florida tight end Kyle Pitts? We got less than 2 minutes.
Well, I don't think so. I think they're going to entertain that pick because I think the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks here.
Okay,
I'm going to stick with that.
If they stay at 4, do they take Kyle Pitts if they have to stay at 4?
No, I think they'll probably get a quarterback. Matt Ryan's 36 over there. You got to really look at his age and everything. I think they'll draft a quarterback, even though Pitts would be a heck of a pickup. But I think if they stay at 4, the first 4 picks, regardless if they're traded or not, are going to be all quarterbacks.
Got about 50 seconds left in the show, Wayne. What do they do if they stay at 4? Do they take Florida tight end Kyle Pitts? I know who you're going to say.
No, I think they need to take defense.
So tell me who you think they're going to take if they sit at 4.
Kwity Paye out of Michigan.
You do. That's interesting. I think they could have him further down the line. I think if they sit, they're either going to take Sewell, offensive lineman of Oregon, or they're going to take Pitts. But I'm with Mark. I think they trade down and get out. So I kind of cheated when I answered that question. But Patrick Surtain, another corner out of Alabama, is a possibility because they have two dynamite cornerbacks to go with A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. Guys, that's the end of our show. We'll have Dave Cohen on next week. And also next week we are going to have David Fanoe, a writer, a historian who's written 32 books on the history of Pittsburgh sports. We're going to talk about the Braves-Pirates rivalry in the 90s. That's it for us all here at ATL Prime Sports. For Todd Corder, for Mark Mancini in Los Angeles,